Hey guys, and welcome to the feather guide. Let's go straight into it because you came here for the guide and not for my voice. So, what is the feather system? The easiest way to understand feathers is to see them as pieces of equipment, like you would your armor. Much like your equipment, they have set bonuses, so don't fill up each set with full yellow feathers just because it's more expensive. It doesn't work that way. We're going for more like a Nike here, not like Versace, you know, performance, not fashion. Disclaimer: if you're a pure PvE player, specialize your feathers towards PvE. This guide will mostly cater to people who want to be part of an organized guild and be involved in PvP, because by doing so you'll have an easier time maxing out your feathers. If you're free to play and casual, go for the 3 purple and 2 yellows. If you're free to play and semi-competitive, go for 2 purple and 3 yellows. But, and this is the only thing that matters, this next step, which is whether you're free to play or low to high spender and competitive, always go for 4 yellow and 1 purple. Why? It's the only feather that gives you the PvP set bonus. And I can show you what I mean here. If you go into Raven's Prestige, for example, the 3 yellow, 2 purple, you try to scroll down, you do not get any PvP bonuses. But once you move up to the one we have, which is Raven's Hour, if you scroll down a little bit here, you'll see that this one has the PvP attribute. And if you want to be competitive in any shape or form, you need to achieve the 4 yellow, 1 purple combo. Now, I know it might sound a little daunting for free-to-play players, but this is why community has always been a huge part of the Ragnarok franchise. As long as you're in a big competitive or semi-competitive community that's active in events like Space Time, Guild League, and Guild Expedition, and as long as you spend your Nyan dividends wisely, the ones that you get from said events, which means that you will be buying feathers as you need them, you'll do just fine. Because in global, not all of these slots that you see on the side here on the left are going to be unlocked right away, which gives you time to save up nyans and work on getting the 4 yellows you need. That way you have them by the time that these slots do unlock. In terms of your 1 purple feather, you can go for a mix truth, which gives you physical and magic damage percent and a flat amount of attack and attack as well. Or there are also in some cases where, for example, let's say you're a caster and you have a high value of dexterity. Let's say each point of dexterity costs you about 8 points to level up, or when you're in the 90s, it probably costs you around 12 points to level up each point of dex. You can choose to go for certain ones with stats on them, like Glory, for example, which has dexterity, because the really good part about this, as you scale into late game, imagine even with just a Glory tier 9, you have a dex plus 5 bonus of not just 1, not just 2, not just 3, not just 4, but actually a total of 5 of them. So imagine that, 25 dexterity. Imagine all of them being 12 points each. So with 12 points each, you just gained yourself a value of 300 stat points that you otherwise would not have or would not be able to afford anyway. And of course, if let's say you are a more defensive class, let's say you are a devotion paladin, for example, you could opt for a more defensive option, and with the attack ones in your offensive tree being replaced by mixed law, which gives you physical and magic damage reduction percent and a flat defense stat as well. And for your defensive tree, you can opt for a more flat defensive style, which one of them being an example is Defense Soul purple feather. Now, the most important part, which is for your 4 yellow feathers. Obviously, you want to get as much as the light and the dark tiers as possible. It gives you the most PvP damage bonus and damage reduction, a flat value in your attack and your attack, and to add more onto that, it will also give you a percent increase in your physical and magic damage, offense and defense. And of course, you usually want to go for attack space because it gives you more PvP damage bonus, and along with ignore a defense, magic defense, and attack and attack flat bonuses. Not as big of a deal for gravity field users or plus 15 holy stick ME users as well. And of course, for your 4th one is going to be the attack time, because it gives you, even though it gives you PvE damage bonus, which is still useful for you, it does give you more flat value in your attack and attack, and also lets you ignore defense and magic defense as well. But of course, a cheaper option for this would be Zenith, and because Zenith is more accessible and cheaper than the Time Feather, sometimes it might be a better option to opt for that instead, because of the reason that I'm going to give you towards the end of this video, which is regarding tiers of bonuses. So stay tuned for that. And obviously for your defensive tree as well, always go for light, always go for dark as well here. And for your defensive tree for PvP damage reduction is going to be the Holy Feather, and your next one is the equivalent of the Time Feather, which is the Nature Defensive Feather, which gives you PvE damage reduction, but it also gives you defense and magic defense along with HP as well. And the defensive equivalent of the Zenith Feather from earlier is the defensive feather called Eternal Night, which we'll see here shortly as well when I show you an example. And the good thing about those two is the fact that they can be bought by diamonds. Also, a good thing to note that both can be bought with guild contributions, so make sure you guys do every guild activity and event, and I'll show you that in a little bit as well. And another yellow option for both attack and defense is Sky and Terra Feathers respectively. And I chose to mention these two last because of the fact that it leads us to the next topic, which is the Valkyrie statue shop. And one way that you can get into the shop is going into your backpack on the upper right, click on point, and go ahead and go to the Valkyrie statue shop. Now, we talked earlier about the Sky and the Terra Feathers, which is an option for you if you want to complete the 4 yellow and 1 purple combo, which you absolutely should aim for. So this one causes quite a bit of confusion to people. A lot of people ask, well, how do I get these currencies here? Well, the answer is actually right in front of you. If you look at these feathers, they all cost this fluffy feather over here, correct? So what happens now is that every single one of these feathers, if you were to dismantle them, they will give you this currency right here. And if you look at the ones on the lower left here, you see the Zenith Feather, it has a singular feather. Well, how do you get these singular feathers? You get these singular feathers by dismantling the Zenith Feather as well. And when you go to the defensive feathers, you can see that the Eternal Night is here, the other defensive option that we talked about earlier. Now, you can get these singular feathers by dismantling these as well. Now, you might ask again, you probably know at this point, how do you get the double feather? Well, how do you get the double feather is by dismantling these things here as well. And if you go to the defensive option, well, there you go, 2 feathers, 2 feathers. If you were to dismantle any of these 2, you will get the double feather currency. Now, at the very top right here, you can see there are 3 feathers. Well, how do you get the 3 feathers? Well, if you go into mix, you'll see at the lower left here that these mix dark and light tier, which is one of the most valuable ones that you want to get. You can get either one of these by dismantling these things as well. And with that said, that is one of the examples that we have of how else can you get all these other yellow feathers. A lot of people feel that it's very daunting because yellow seems like such an expensive and such a difficult rarity of feather to get, especially if you're free to play. But that is not always the case. So the obvious ones that people usually see right off the bat is in the RO shop. If you go into diamonds, obviously you can get Zenith, like I said earlier, and Eternal Night as well for diamonds. And the more obvious ones that we probably know and fear already because of how expensive they are is the ones in the popular items in the Nyanberry shop. The ones that cost you over 9,000 Nyanberries just to buy weekly, which is your Eternal Nights, your Times, your Space tiers, your Nature, your Holy tiers, your Mixed Lights, and your Mixed Dark tiers. They are one of the most crucial ones that you should buy every week if you are able to. But again, it's very expensive and not everybody can afford it. So where else can you get yellow feathers to at the very least complete a 4 yellow 1 purple combo? Well, let's go back into the point store here in the upper right. So if you look at guild vending machine and you scroll down here, you can actually see you can obtain more Zenith and Eternal Night tiers just by spending your guild contribution. And to the left here, we talked about earlier how you can have certain levels of stats, especially high value stats. You can get those over here as well. If you can see here, the glory tier, the one that gives you the dexterity, which is huge, you can get it here as well. Again, this is why I emphasize why being in a big competitive or semi-competitive guild is a big deal. And being active also counts towards that as well, because in this case, if you are very active in your guild, you get your guild contribution. You'll get a lot of contribution that you can use to buy the feathers that you need to further your progression, even if you are free to play. Now, a less obvious way of getting them is by doing War of Imperium. A lot of people say the War of Imperium does not reward you quite as well. Well, I'm here to change your mind regarding that, because if you are to go into your guild hall and you go to the upper left, which is the War of Imperium room, or the Imperium prep room, you can go to this NPC right here, go to the War of Imperium supply shop, and you can have a lot of options here to spend the currency that you get just by participating and earning achievements in the War of Imperium. And if you scroll down here just a little bit, you can see that you can get your Sky and your Terra feathers here as well. More yellows for you to use, but that's not the most important one. The ones that you should be getting, the ones you should be looking at, is the Time Space Feather Custom Chest. You can purchase a maximum of 2 of these weekly. And if you look at these are the ones that you were looking for earlier that add more PvP bonuses to you. So if you check this out right here, this is the space tier, which gives you the PvP damage bonus and the attack and M attack flat bonus with the ignore defense and ignore magic defense. So if you are in a active guild and you guys are doing War of Imperium every week, you get a castle, you get a lot of this currency right here called War of Imperium gem fragments for a reason, because you get them during War of Imperium, and you get them even if you don't win a castle. You can get them just by getting a certain amount of achievement during War of Imperium. So again, that puts you ahead of the curve as long as you're in a organized and competitive guild. That's why I emphasize the sense of community that you have in Ragnarok Online. You should always go for an active guild, because the rewards that you get from it are crucial to you, especially if you're free to play. And even if you're not free to play, if you're min-maxing your stuff like this, then you have less nyans that you have to spend every week in order to try to develop your character in terms of feathers. And again, to emphasize earlier, I mentioned Time Space, I mentioned Guild Expedition, I mentioned Guild League matches, and what happens is that when you participate in these events, the whales in your guild will have the option to bid on more feathers if they want to level their feathers faster. Now, how it works is that if you participate in these events, you will have a guild auction first, wherein the auction is exclusive to your guild, and then after that, the stuff that doesn't get bought out in your guild gets pushed into the world auction where people can bid on it. And if there are some extras there and whales and other players from different guilds buy the feathers that are from your auction or the items from your auction, obviously you will have what's called a dividend. And what a dividend is basically your share, because you participated in those guild events and then people bought those things that were as a result of those guild events. You get rewarded with nyans and diamonds. So again, you see like a repetition of the same aspect of community that comes into being an organized guild, because then you get rewarded for it. But of course, this is not our only option. If you go over to your events daily here, you can see that if you go to Alfheim, even if you've already completed all the necessary levels, let's say like you're maxed out, you can't go any further, right? And then on the lower left here, you can see one of the rewards that you get at the bottom here will get you more feathers as well. So all you have to do is just do your Alfheim to the utmost and then claim them every day, and you have free feathers that if you want them, they're there. If you don't want them, you can dismantle them if you want to. And not only that, just by doing your Helheim challenges, you actually get even more feathers. And if there are some in there that you can't use, again, dismantle them and then use them to get more. And then after that, use those to tier up the existing ones that you already have equipped. And the ones you can't use, just dismantle them. It's that easy. It is that easy. And so now we're going to move on to the last part of this one. Now I've just shown you all the other ways that you can get more feathers, and now you see how possible it is and how easy it is to achieve a 4 yellow 1 purple combo, and how easy it is to at the very least level up a few tiers of them before the other ones open up as you level up. And you have to start filling in these other spots right here, but it won't be happening for quite a while, because when the global server starts, it's gonna take a while for all these slots to open. Maybe in the first 2-3 weeks, you won't even have this whole second part over here open for you to achieve 4 yellow and 1 purple. So don't worry too much about the beginning, because you might not be able to tier it up as fast as a whale can, but at least you'll be able to get enough and be able to tier up enough to a point where you're not getting melted just because you're playing the game even as free to play, and you're getting the necessary PvP attributes so that the lead that they try to pull forward with does not get realized. But enough of that, and on to the last part. How do you get these max tier bonuses? Because if you look at the set bonuses here, it tells you max tier bonus preview, which gives you attack 78 flat, PvP damage bonus plus 69, nice, attack attribute plus 30%, PvP and PvE attributes 80%, right? So how do you get that? If you look at the upper right here, you can see I am a 4 tier Raven's Hour in this slot, right? And over here, I am a 3 tier Raven's Hour slot on the defensive slot here. So how is that dictated? If you read right below it, set tier equals the lowest tier of inserted feathers. And if you look at it here, I have a tier 9 glory tier, but then all of my other ones over here are balanced at tier 4. So the lowest one being tier 4 means that you are now in a 4 tier Raven's Hour slot, right? So your stats as you go up, if you notice, you can see my PvP attribute is at 39%. I switch over to the 3 tier one, goes down to 36%. Go up back up to the tier 4 one, goes back up to 39%, right? So that's how you level those tiers, and that's why it's important to balance your sets. Don't overly upgrade this one right here only for these to fall behind, because yes, you might get like a few more stats compared to the other ones over here, but if you don't tier them up evenly, then you're missing out on a lot of the bonus, and the bonus that actually matters, and the reason why you're doing the 4 yellow 1 purple combo to begin with. Hopefully all of that helped, and if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them down in the comments below. If you would like to hear more content like this, please don't hesitate to click that subscribe button, click that like button, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.